Hi and welcome to this behind the music look at one of the demo tracks I wrote for Bass Untamed. It's a short cue called When It Moves, Kill It, which was kind of like, it was my attempt at doing horror film scoring. I've never really done anything like this before, so this has taken me right out of my comfort zone. I'm a big horror film fan, and when I was kind of dissecting a few cues that that I like before writing this to kind of like work out what other people are doing, I was like, this is really tricky. I think horror movie score writing is like absolutely underrated, and maximum respect for the people that do it. Now that I've actually tried to do it myself and given it, even, this is only 60 seconds and it's not even to, a piece of film or a piece of video. I found it really tricky. So for the people that do it, if you can leave me some comments, like, what do you do? What do you think about this? How could I have done this differently? Those kind of things. Yeah, I'd love to hear it. So yes, utmost respect for those people that do this for a living. Anyway, I'm going to play you the cue now. You can see kind of like, how I've done it, how I've got to those sounds and things. And I'll just take you through a few of the tracks as well so you can hear what's going on, because there's a lot of layers to these kind of things. That's how I managed to get there anyway, with layers and covering things up and masking things. But, that's the way you make cake sometimes. So let's play the cue and then we'll go from there. So that's the cue. I'm quite pleased with it for the fact I've never done this kind of thing before. Like, I don't think it's turned out too badly, but I'm sure there's lots to pick apart for those people that do this. So anyway, the first thing I started off with was the piano. I thought, let's do something kind of, a bit out there. And alt piano, it's the first time I've ever really used this control in like real anger, which is the untune control. So I basically jammed that all the way to the ceiling to make the... make it really out of tune and kind of like, like you're not sure what's going on. I use this trans-pitch control, which if you don't know about it, takes everything down kind of 6 semitones, but then pitch shifts things back up. I kind of wanted to make just the piano sound a bit like, broken basically. And then the natural felted control is kind of somewhere in the middle there. And then my favourite one of the layers is this grain one, the texture layers, which are turned up here. So... and then just using the close mic, so it just sounds like really close, but then swamped with reverb as well. So you get that kind of like, change between there's something really close, but it's also quite far away as well. So it's that untune control that really sealed it. It was just at the end I thought, something needs to happen, so I just pushed it all the way to the ceiling, and that kind of made the difference. That turned the piano into something else that really made the track work. And in terms of like the notes for the piano, I just wanted, something... that kind of thing where there's just like notes that clash, notes that are right next to each other, just to provide that sort of dissonance. So that's what I did with the piano, swamped it in reverb, so you get that kind of like a real change between being like a close feeling with the closed mics, but then also really distant. The next thing I did was added the bass improvisations, so let's just solo these for now. And the first one that comes in is just like the middle layer of the velocities that you've got to play with. And then this next one comes in, which is the same note, but it's like the top velocity, so it suddenly starts to get quite angry. And with these, I was just using the expression control to sort of like gradually raise the volume over the track. And then the final kind of like long bass notes were the storms. Which are the kind of same notes again. And you can see in my modulation data, I'm just constantly just riding those and just like coming up and coming down, just to like get the sense that something's coming and something's like, you know, it's gonna get you. And then the ricochets, absolutely perfect for these. Let's just pull these up. Just slowly, like, they're so good, they're so like driving and just like something is coming and it's gonna hurt. And these just like gradually increase in velocity as you get there. And just I couldn't think of anything better to put in there. And they just get like really angry towards the end. Brilliant. And then these spiccato layers is basically, it's just an octave note, just slowly building and building and building. Not quite the same speed as the ricochets, they're a bit faster, but I'll just play these individually. And then the cellos. Just tiny little short, kind of like digging little notes. Really, really good. Violins. And then all together, if I show you just these. So those are just slowly building and building. And then this circular bowing, again, it's like one of those articulations that I wouldn't use that frequently. And then for this, it was just, I was kind of going to do the pizzicato thing that I've heard loads, which is just like, you know, it feels like spiders or something crawling over. But this sound, when I wrote that kind of stuff, it did sound comical, and I was like, this isn't working, and I deleted it. And then the circular bowing was like, no, that's that kind of like shimmery sound over the top that just makes your skin crawl a little bit. So just quite loose with those notes, but it felt like that pizzicato thing that a lot of people do, but just like a different version of it, and just again like really heavy with the expression and modulation to kind of just like ride up and down with those levels to kind of make you unsure about what this thing that might be coming to attack us all. Improvisations on the violin next, and these are just single notes. And again, just riding those expression and modulation curves just to like, bring that sound out. And then these other improvisations at the bottom. If I play these just two at the end, you'll see how they really come to life. And just what I did with those, if I bring them both up together, you can't see it too badly from that, but one's going down and then the other one's coming up, so almost like colliding in the middle. So it's like, you and the monster, one of you's coming down, one of you's coming up, and you're going to meet in the middle, that kind of thing. And then these improvisations on the cello as well. And again, just putting two notes next to each other that shouldn't go together, but obviously for horror kind of stuff, this really works, where you've just got two notes that clash right next to each other. That kind of thing. And then let's just talk about the percussion at the bottom. And this is from, it's not a library I'm a massive fan of, but there's a couple of notes in there. If you start to dig around in this, to me it sounds like Way Too Big and Hollywood and all those kind of things that I'm not a huge fan of. But if you dig around in there, there's some really good stuff, just single notes. And I found this one in this Mystic Percussion, which I guess is like a sheet metal or something just being bended. And those two, and I was like, yes, that's the one I need. So, you know, you get these things from Native Instruments, and sometimes there's just stuff in there that's just like, ah, that's perfect. On first open, some of these libraries, for me anyway, personally, they're like, they're too glossy, they're too polished, the sounds are too recognizable as well. Whereas if you dig around, I think there's some stuff in there that's absolute gold. So yeah, top tip for today is just like dig around in some of your libraries that you immediately don't, you know, you might not go, oh, that's going to work, but there's probably some stuff in there that might, if you take the time to give it a go. So that's what I did with the percussion. And they work really well. Kind of, it's almost, how I was thinking about it is almost like the breath of this monster, like, you know, just like coming in and coming out again. And that's what I wanted to do at the end. So it's almost like these big stabs at the end, and then there's the breath in between the stabs. That kind of thing. So you just get this, like, it just fills in this little gap in between those end stabs, and that was my motivation for it anyway. You've got to give yourself something to work with, and so just leading on from that, these big stabs at the end is like all guns blazing, like the bass is doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different notes at once. So if I just play these, I'll pull them up on screen as well so you can see. Let's do that. So you can see like everything's pretty much at max velocity. So just like really aggressive, and like when I was writing this, I was like, yes, that's where the top velocity of these improvisations comes into its own. Is just like when you just need to go all out and just like, you know, make some pain on the screen. That's what those layers are for. So in terms of mixing, there's nothing too crazy going on. There's just a couple of subtle EQ curves just to pull things around, especially on these spiccato notes here. I was kind of just like highlighting and hiding some of the frequencies just to make them all sit in their own range together. So the violin is just like that, scooped out some of the low end. The cello spiccatos are more like that, so again just taking off the bottom end and then putting in some of the middle, and then the bass ones taking out all of the top end, which on its own sounds a bit wrong, but then with the others it sounds, if I just play this, it's like, to me that sounds a bit muffled, but when you play them all together suddenly they've all got their own space in the frequency spectrum. The other thing I was using with this just the Logic built-in Echo plugin, which is haven't really used it before, but I thought it sounded quite good on some of these. It's a really simple plugin to use, but it was just like to get that echo, and then I've used it on these improvisations. So at the end, it's a bit more prominent. And again, it just fills in those gaps in between each one of those stabs at the end. It just gives those gaps, gives your ear just something to listen to. And then, no surprise to anybody, is the Pro Art reverb. Just exactly as it comes out the box with the Concert Hall Vienna setting. And then everything just given a bit of a healthy dose. And then just a compressor just to bring it all together. If I just unsolo these. So it's not doing too much. I think when this, your, like what I found anyway, is the like the final compressor on your master bus, if the needle is just coming like -1, 2, maybe -3, you know, dB, that's where suddenly the track starts to sort of glue together a little bit more. I think any more than that, and that's too much on the master bus. But you know, I'm not the world's best mixer, so if you've got better tips than that, then let me know. But that's what I do anyway. So the ratio is not massively high, kind of like definitely less than 2 to 1. And then so your needle's just like -1, -2. That's where I'm sitting anyway. And then obviously you make up gain to kind of pull that back. So, and then just on the master bus, there's a limiter as well, which isn't too crazy. It's only at 2 dB. I think with this kind of stuff, especially horror music, is that you need it to be dynamic. You need it to be quiet, and you need it to be really loud. And if you go too crazy with like compression and mastering on the end, you're going to destroy everything that you've worked to achieve. So just be careful, because you want to keep those dynamics, especially in this kind of music. So that's everything. I think let us know in the comments if there's anything like you specifically want to know about how I've done this. And this is how I've done it as well. Like, I'm by no means an expert on this kind of thing. This is the first time I've ever really written a cue that's like this. Definitely outside of my comfort zone, but it was so much fun to do, and really hard as well. Like I said at the beginning, I've got so much respect now for people that do this for a living, horror music specifically, because it is really, really tricky to kind of like to do something. And this is really simple as well, and it's not even to, you know, to a film, written to a picture. So I challenge you to do it. Just like, if you don't write this kind of music normally, give it a go, because it is a lot of fun, and you will come out of it with something, and nobody has to listen to it, nobody has to hear it. If it's, you know, if it's terrible at the end, it doesn't really matter. You've probably learned something, you would have had a lot of fun doing it, and you know, but you surprise yourself, you might come out with something absolutely incredible, better than what I've done anyway. So that's, yeah, challenge yourself this Halloween definitely to do something like this. Especially if you don't do this kind of stuff already. So that is it. Thanks very much for watching. Really appreciate your time. Hope you've learned something. I definitely have. Have a great time at Halloween, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care.